You're the only people we've ever told, by the way.
Yeah, as you started telling that, I was like, that's maybe the most intimate thing about me that's ever been said publicly.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to the elders both past and present. My name's Ali Daddo.
I'm Cam Daddo.
Yes. Australian showbiz couple Rhys and Kyran Nicholson are our guests today in the bathroom.
Comedian, actor, author Rhys Nicholson got the attention of the Australian public over a decade ago, together with Joel Creasy in the ABC doco Gay Crashes, where they were told, if you want to be accepted, just be yourselves. Don't have Mardi Gras. Now, to me, the best thing about that is, sweetheart, they continue to be themselves and what appears to have their own Mardi Gras every time they step out the front door with their wildly successful shows. They're one of only 3 Australians to have a solo Netflix special.
That's a big deal.
Very impressive.
That's very impressive. Now, late last year, Rhys married Kyran Wheatley. And on top of co-founding Comedy Republic with Rhys and being the creative director, Kyran was a broadcaster on Triple J for the better part of a decade. He also directed many Rhys's comedy shows, one of them called Rhys. I wonder how they got that name.
Reese's Pieces. We're privileged to have Kyran and Rhys just outside the door, and who knows what's going to happen for this chat. Let's bring them in. How are you guys? Thanks for joining us in the bathroom.
Thanks for having us.
Lovely to be here in the bathroom.
You must have carpeted walls because I don't hear an echo. So it's a nice.
Doesn't everyone have carpet in the bathrooms?
Oh, you see those toilets that have carpets like from the 70s? What's going on there?
I know.
A lot of towels, though. A lot of towels hanging up. Our son had 13 towels in his room at one point.
Yes, he's taken the record.
He's got the record.
Oh, let's not ask questions about that.
Yeah.
How many towels do
Yeah.
you have? We have a lot of towels, but...
Well, we were a family of 5, and I think we had 14 towels, and he had 13 of them.
The rest of us, we're sharing a sheet.
Yeah.
It is a very stressful thing, isn't it? When you can hear, when you're on the phone to someone, you can hear them walk into a bathroom, and it's a very, like...
Yes.
What are you doing in there? What's happening? What's about to happen? Am I on mute now? Oh, no.
Yeah, because you know when you've been taken into a bathroom, don't you?
Yes.
You do.
There's a particular noise.
The echo does change.
Yeah, it's a dead giveaway.
There are particular things that have noise. Like, I was on stage the other night and I heard someone in my audience, there was like a drop noise and it was so clearly a phone. You know, there's like a phone drop noise, and we all went, ooh, like, is it cracked? Is everything all right?
Any noise can stop a Rhys Nicholson show.
Yeah. Someone opened a Velcro purse the other day.
Oh, is that right? Are you a bit sensitive to that?
I'm not like a horse. I'm not going to get easily spooked or something. But I'm very easily distracted. You will see throughout our conversation. You will see this.
Got it.
There's not enough Ritalin in the world.
Right. Oh, got it. All right. Look, we are a relationship podcast, and we would love to hear a little bit about yours. How did the two of you meet?
We met in person, very old school for like kind of our generation. We met at our friend Zan Rowe. It was her 33rd and a third. She was always away for her actual birthday, so she decided to have a 33rd and a third birthday, like a third into her 30s.
That's like a record player, 33rd.
Well, that was it.
Well, exactly. And it was
right.
themed as Come As Your Favourite Album.
Smart. I love that.
Yeah.
And I went because I know nothing about, like, I don't know enough about music, and I knew that there would be a lot of Triple J people there and ABC people, and they would all have really great costumes. So I decided to, and keeping in mind I was 21 when I did this, I went as a greatest hits album. So I looked like I'd been beaten up. See, that's about as good the reaction the costume got the entire night. Like, it was.
It's clever though.
No, but it was. I hadn't gone like cute black eye and stuff. I'd gone quite gory,
right?
Okay,
and quite a lot. And then I met Kyran at that party, and he was like the first person to laugh at the costume, and so I latched onto him because I have a need for attention.
Did you have to explain the greatest hit aspect, or Kyran, did you get it straight away?
No, I didn't get it at all.
No.
I was like, what are you wearing?
What were you dressed as, Kyran?
Nothing. I'd come directly from work. I'd sort of vaguely worn a sort of Jack White kind of outfit.
Yeah.
So sort of vague. I was pretending to be in costume, essentially.
Yeah, like Kyran looked quite handsome and not in a costume. And I always say, like, me in a gory, over-the-top outfit and him in no costume at all is a perfect metaphor for our relationship and continues to be.
If we go to a costume party these days, Rhys is always, like, dressing me up, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was how many years ago?
84.
1984.
1984.
It was before we were both born. Our parents met at a party.
And promised each other.
It was, this is a horrible way to remember, but it was the same night that Amy Winehouse died. So whatever year that was, I think like 2011.
Okay.
Because it was like we were in a party of music journalists and it got announced that Amy Winehouse had passed away, and it suddenly wasn't Zamro's birthday for about an hour.
The record, actually, the 33 and a third RPMs went.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Went scratch across the record for that moment.
There was like a sort of scratch, and then we just played Amy Winehouse for the rest of the night, pretty much.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So now you guys got married last year.
Yeah, in September.
Finally.
Congratulations.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
amazing. Great stuff.
It was a lot of fun.
Was there a proposal?
Oh,
Multiple.
God.
Take us through that. And who proposed?
Multiple.
It's a bone of contention within our relationship, really. I mean, I've made it that way. Do you want me to tell my version of the story,
Yes.
and then you
Well,
can?
Rhys's version of this story is stand up. So it's so you'll get
I love it. I'm buying a ticket. Here we go.
Well, I mean, I actually don't remember how the stand-up used to go, but essentially what happened was we went to a friend's wedding after we'd been together for quite a while, but not like maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
We'd been together for maybe 5 or 6
well,
years.
marriage wasn't legal at the time for us.
Yeah, gay marriage wasn't legal in Australia.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had gone to a friend's wedding, and it was a pretty like incredible one. One of those ones that you're like, oh, this is what all weddings should be like. And then we found out how much it cost, and it was like, oh God, no wedding should be like this. And Kyran was doing breakfast radio at the time and had to be home quite early. So the idea was we'll go to the reception for a little while. And then I just accidentally got like blind on wedding champagnes, just in that kind of you can't count kind of ways where they just keep filling it up and people are doing speeches and they just keep filling it up and filling it up. And Kyran was not drunk at all. And I was just like I wasn't a nuisance, but I was just getting champagne. Yeah, okay. But I do remember being, and this is not a feeling that I usually have, but like I was quite overwhelmed by like the loviness of it. Like I'm a pretty cynical person most of the time, but I was so like, this is so beautiful, and like this is how, and some of our best friends were doing speeches and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of already planned in my head, I was like, I think I'm going to propose to Kyran. Like this is a few weeks before. And I was trying to think of like a way to do it. And I hadn't organized like a ring or anything. And then Kyran like got me home and like was putting me to bed in that way that only, I think certain, like that kind of like, come on mate, 9 eyes, down she goes.
Shoes off, I think.
Yeah, that kind of like the very not sexy undressing of your partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kept saying this phrase that was like, it was just such a good wedding. Wasn't it a good wedding? I just kept like saying over and over, it was just a beautiful wedding. And Kyran was like trying to go to sleep. And it's like, yeah, it was really great. I got to go to sleep.
And it's also 4 a.m.
Yeah, so I got to go to sleep.
yeah.
I've got to be on air in like 2 hours. And I just had this like epiphany moment, whatever a negative epiphany is. And I said, hey, it was a good wedding, and would you do that also? And Kyran was like, sorry, what? And I said, would you do that also? And he's like, I don't, and like I remember the lamp going back on and him like sitting up and going, are you proposing to me right now? And I was like, yeah. And then I remember him saying, well, if you're gonna propose to me, if you ask me to marry you, need to actually ask me to marry you. And I just said, fine, will you fucking marry me? That was my proposal.
I said yes. And then I went to work that morning, and I was on air with Jen Fricker at the time on Triple J, and I knew that when I got home from work, I would have to see if Rhys remembered proposing to me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to yet
Tell anyone.
Share the news with anyone.
Right. You're
in case I
giddy
got
with
home.
excitement. Yeah.
So I'm just holding that in. And then when I got home, I was like a little budgie, like, hello, do Do you remember anything about this morning?
Do you remember what you actually said? So I wear this ring. This is like an heirloom, like this is my great grandfather's wedding band. And the way that you asked, and I think this is actually this is a very you thing to do, where you were being very careful, and you said, after last night, you might need to move that over to the other finger. And if I was to say, I don't know what you're talking about, you could move on from that pretty quickly, I'd imagine. But I had, and because I had woken up and I remembered doing it, but then automatic hangover shame mixed with terrible proposal shame, a toxic cocktail that no amount of burgers can fix. But then Kyran,
I did a much better job.
Yeah, you did a much better job.
So then, was it the same year?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were talking days, weeks, months apart.
Yes.
Well, I just felt it was unfair. I felt it was unfair that I wasn't allowed to propose now. And I think had maybe grown up thinking that I'd propose a bit more. Maybe that was just in my head. And then so I was like, well, screw it. I'm just going to propose back. That was a bad proposal anyway. So let's
do a better one.
Let's go around again.
But then I also by me being as drunk as I was and you as sober as I was, we weren't really able to usually I'd imagine after you get proposed to and you say yes, there's a kind of some sort of consummation of that moment. But we didn't. It would have been probably laws against Kyran having sex with me in the state that I was in.
I was trying to think about if we consummated after you proposed to me, but it was earlier in the morning, so.
No, we walked
we were
to
at
the beach.
your
We were at Port
mum
Melbourne
and dad's
Beach,
house,
and it was
so.
I was walking on the sand, and
that
was one of
didn't.
those weird moments.
No, get to it later.
But when I proposed to Ali, she also said to me, "Are you proposing to me? Are you asking me to?" She said, "Ask me properly."
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Yes.
I said it kindly.
Yeah, ask me properly.
Because you were like, "Well, do you want to? Do you want to get married?" And I'm like, "Are you asking me? Can you ask me?"
Yeah.
It's kind of similar, Rhys.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the excuse of having a champagne
No, neither of
fountain
us
in
were
my
drunk.
belly.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so
All right,
let's get to Kyran's proposal.
your
Come on.
proposal.
Well, yeah. So then, and there was no ring, except a couple of days later, Rhys gave me a plasticine ring in a matchbox
We had no money at the time. I should make that clear.
Yep.
that had a little drawing on the top of it, because Rhys is a pretty good little drawer, and just drew on the top of the matchbox there. And we were living in this sort of secret life of us apartment block in Camperdown in Sydney, where we had 4 different friends in different apartments, and one of them was a jeweler. And
I'd also had this thought. I just didn't go through with it.
because Rhys wears that ring and forgets to put it back on after doing the dishes all the time, I knew that there was going to be a window. And so when Rhys ducked out one day and I would constantly check to see if they'd forgotten their ring, found it, raced downstairs. Lisa had left a key out permanently so that I could always get in, open the door, go to her ring sizes, match it up so we can get the right size ring.
Right.
Found out the size, go back, put the ring back, and it's all, we've got it. And then
It's near sociopathic. If this was a spy movie, that would also be something a villain does.
The cinematography was amazing. And then when and then later that year, because we go to Edinburgh every year for the Fringe,
Oh, amazing.
and it's kind of it's like an overseas city that is sort of very homely to us.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's a good spot for it. So when we got to Edinburgh for the Fringe that year, I was then trying to convince Rhys to walk up Arthur's Seat, which is like the mountain in the middle of the city, a bit like Kings Park to Perth.
Yes.
And Rhys just doesn't want to do that at all, of course.
I'm hungover. I have to work for an hour a day. I'm tired.
And I've got this matchbox in my pocket almost permanently, just burning a hole through my pocket the entire festival, trying to get Rhys up this mountain. And eventually they say yes, they take pity on me. We're getting close to the end of the festival. And I think Rhys is thinking, if I don't go up that fucking mountain soon, it's not going to happen. So finally we get up there. And then halfway up the mountain, it's a beautiful day looking out over Edinburgh, gorgeous city. And I just asked Rhys, do you want any water? And just like, oh, yeah. So we stopped for a second and I opened.
For context, I'd been in a bad mood the day.
The whole month, essentially.
The whole month, really.
Shows weren't going well.
Probably not, to be honest. It was a few years
Yeah.
ago. I've got an audience there now, but at the time, I was a drop in a bucket. But that thing where you're being led to like a momentous moment in your life, but you don't know that.
Yes.
And so I'm scuffing my feet and like kind of just like, oh, bloody mountain.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, why are you addicted to this
Took
mountain?
me ages to find a moment when Rhys was actually in front of me. But then,
Dragging us down.
but then eventually found the moment, asked if they want some water, turn off the bucket, turn around.
Yes.
And I'm on one knee, and instead of having a bottle of water halfway up this mountain looking over Edinburgh, I've got a matchbox, the matchbox that Rhys used to propose to me a few months earlier. And Rhys says, "Oh, there's a ring in there, isn't there?" And I said, "There's two."
Oh,
Wow.
Always ready to ruin a moment, me. Always ready. That's the Rhys Nicholson promise. If you're trying to make my life better, I'm going to make you feel bad about it.
So there's two stories. You can pick which one you like better.
oh, beautiful.
So you guys have chosen a life of comedy.
And errors.
And a comedy and errors. Yes. Did comedy choose you, or did you choose comedy?
It's a really interesting question. I think I probably, career-wise, I think I chose comedy. Like, as in, it's not like I was, having... But it's what I wanted to do from when I was a kid, but it was a very clear choice.
Okay.
I used to watch the galas growing up, and before I even kind of really understood what stand-up was, I was like, whatever this is, I want to do that. And then as I understood it more, like I moved to Sydney when I was 18 to become a comedian. Like, it was a very big, like, choice. And thank God it has worked out, because otherwise I would still be working at a Grilled in Newcastle. But it does, by doing that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like, I think this sounds so, like, wanky maybe, but comedy chooses you in whether you can keep doing it.
Right.
Like, I think, or make it financially viable. That's not to say that if we know plenty of people who are very happy as almost hobbyist comedians, like in the same way that people might kind of do karaoke or something. Like, there are plenty of people in comedy that aren't ambitious, but I think Kyran and I think that's something that we both have, is that we're both quite ambitious people, kind of openly, and like to work.
That's why I think when you say, like, comedy chooses you if you're going to have a long career, it's like, well, I think there's a part of it that's like, working your ass off as well. Like, doing 10 Edinburghs in a row probably has something to do with it. That didn't choose you.
And all I got out of it was an engagement.
And a matchbox. Come
Isn't
on.
there a
And a
T-shirt
match.
saying that? I went to the Edinburgh Festival and all I got was engaged. Yeah.
All I got was life, love. Ugh.
Do you find it beneficial that both of you understand the comedy circuit, the comedy world, and are both funny? Has that been super beneficial for the relationship?
I think so. We were talking about this the other day. Like, I don't understand couples that don't kind of work together. Like, I think more often than not, you kind of get people that are like, I cannot believe you both work together. That seems insane. And that is crazy to me that you wouldn't, like, what do other people talk about other than themselves?
Also, I think comedy like brought us together, because I have a similar origin story of watching the galas and having them on VHS and rewatching them. And, we would talk about some of those old sets, like Maria Bamford's set on the gala in like 2002 or something. And like that was our early relationship, was like talking about the comedy we loved and what comedy we liked.
A lot of our early dates, because we had no money, were like laying on his bed in Devonshire Street in Sydney and watching clips on YouTube. Like that, like we just kind of, and then going to get, like, I'd started doing comedy and we would go to gigs together and that sort of thing.
And was it stand-up, or was it movies, or...
Stand-up, I think.
Yeah, okay.
For the both of us, maybe.
Yeah, stand-up comedy, just like the purest form possible, and like, because it's all about like a joke. It's all about like a joke, and we just would get very nerdy about why we liked this thing or that joke specifically.
Okay.
The craft of it early on, we would just like talk about that so much.
I mean, it's very similar to like meeting at a music gig or something, or like meeting at there's a precision similar to having a taste in music. I think we have almost exactly the same taste in comedy.
Right.
And, being able to talk at length. We don't bore each other with why a joke works.
Yeah,
I
right.
think it must be so. When I meet comedians' partners and they are like a teacher or something, I just feel so sorry for them because it's like you are sitting at home while this moron is just talking at length,
Dissecting the frog.
about like, the gig at minute 5 tonight, I should have said this instead of that, and blah blah blah. That must be ruinous.
But that's a natural thing. It's like doing live theatre. Coming off stage after doing a show, and then you want to talk with your other actors about, remember that moment there, and you did that bit, and that was so great because this led into that, and you juiced up for hours, and then you get to go and do it again the next night, and see if it works, and it falls flat, and you go, I did exactly the same thing. Guess I didn't. It's such a
and we
weird
have
thing.
that. I think we have that where because Kyran, we put my shows that I tour with, they're our shows. Like Kyran and I put them together. Like he directs them.
Yeah.
And which is not super common in comedy. It's getting more and more common to have like collaborators.
Jim Gaffigan's wife, I think, works.
Yeah, it's an
with
American
him,
comedian.
the American stand-up. I think they work
Yeah, I
together
like
quite
him.
a lot, but it's pretty uncommon.
It means that like at the moment, like, we're doing Melbourne Comedy Festival and we're still kind of fiddling with the show. And it means that, I'll do the show and then on the way home, we're like kind of talking about it and not do a boring, like I think like any work thing, we also just stop. But I think we've spent so much time apart when I've been touring over the years that I think we've kind of chosen now to spend as much time as possible together.
So it's fascinating. Both of you are creative. Do you spend the day taking mental notes from your day-to-day for material, or is there a switch-off moment?
I probably should, Cam. I'd be a lot more prolific. It would take me probably not as long to put together new material as it does. I think we do in a strange way.
I think before a show, like before we start putting a show together, things that are funny, we sort of go, okay, remember that. But I think if we did that 24/7, 52 weeks of the year, we'd go insane. Like I think we just kind of live our lives like any story that ends up in a show. Like you don't even have to nod like, that, because it's so obvious that's going to be the story. Like they're usually quite, when you're in conversation and someone will say to us, usually an uncle or something, will say like, you can use that in your show. That's never the thing. That's never the thing.
No.
Something will happen later that day that they don't blink an eye at, and it's like,
That's the thing.
That's the thing that's going in the show. But I think we just know what that is and what that isn't a little bit more. Like you don't.
I think we're also in a pretty constant state, and not in like a bitty kind of way, but like we're always we're in a pretty constant state of trying to make each other laugh.
Yeah.
And I think by doing that, we are probably like a lot of things that end up in the act are from conversations that we've had and like opinion. Like I think we're always needling things, even like bitching about someone or something like that on the ride home. Or not even bitching, but maybe just having dinner with a friend or something and going, did you notice that they do this thing? Like, that's really interesting thing that they do. We're in a pretty constant state of doing that. This sounds so hokey, but it's genuinely my favorite time of the day, if we're not, like, really exhausted, is just, like, the kind of going through the faff of the day with your partner, remembering what we have to do tomorrow and blah, 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 but, like, just trying to be funny and then kind of drifting off to sleep. Like that to me is much more intimate than, even like physical things. Like I think there's this person that at the end of the day, you're able to be quite, you could say anything in that moment and you would imagine, unless it's like, I've been seeing 4 other people, maybe they might leave you after that. But I do think those
might be a mood killer, that one.
I don't know if you're going straight to sleep that night.
Difficult to be funny, I'd say, in that moment.
Kyran, how do you go? You're, as you mentioned before, you're directing Rhys, and I imagine it's going quite well because you guys have done a few shows together now. How is that experience? You're married, you've been in a relationship a long time. Are there disagreements, and how do you navigate through that?
No, there isn't, Kyran. Say that there isn't. Tell him that there isn't.
Look, there's no disagreements. No, I'd say we get asked this a little bit, of course, because it is a bit unusual. Like it is a bit like, but how do you, you're in a relationship, how do you separate work from relationship, I guess. But like a good way of saying it, I think, is I find it harder to understand how like Colin Lane and Frank Woodley work together. Not because they're awful people, they're great people, but they're both equals. They're both on stage. They both have to sell it. They've both got to decide it's funny. You've got to compromise. You've got to figure it out together. Whereas I think for us, my job is very much to help Rhys get to where they want the show to be. I don't have to do it. If I've got an idea for the show, I can pitch that, I can sell it, I can push it really hard. But at the end of the day, I'm not the one on stage for 100 nights trying to sell that joke. And so if Rhys doesn't like it, then I've got to either find a better way to explain what needs to be in it, or come at it from a different angle and find some other solution to the same problem, or, you know, maybe it's not a problem. Maybe I'm thinking about it from the wrong perspective. But that's why I think it's like slightly different, because we're not like a performing partnership.
Yeah.
I don't think we could ever do that. Like even the times that we have been on stage together, it's kind of odd.
And the frustrating thing for me is in any kind of creative partnership, you instinctively want to be right. And often I think I maybe fight that. I'm the one that's like, no, I think this is the right way to do it because I'm the onstage comedian, I know, and then I'll do it my way and it'll be fine. But then I'll do it Kyran's way almost out of spite in a way that's like, well, we'll just see, won't we? And then it worked better and it's like...
Right. See, and I think that's really beautiful because that is the trust that you have, you know, the intimacy and the trust that you have with each other, which is probably why it does work so well. I know that when I have to read off camera when Cam is doing his self-tapes for auditions.
Oh, I do that too.
9 times out of 10 it ends in an argument, I have to say. Every time he goes, I've got a self-tape to do, can someone help me with it? And me and the kids all look at each other and go, oh, fuck.
I just got to wash 13 towels, sorry, I can't.
It's like, everyone's like, I'm real busy, Dad. I'm like, honey, no, can we just not? And he goes, no, come on, it's going to be 5 minutes. It's never 5 minutes. It's 5 hours, and it ends in a fight. But I really need your help. And I'm like, oh, but we've gotten better as the years have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, look, I tell you what, there was a moment back in LA where it had been a dark period. I had the coldest hand in Hollywood. It's just couldn't get a gig. And then something came in from Australia. An audition came in and I said, oh, we got to do this. And I was like, yeah, we actually do need to do this. So we did this audition and she just, at one point she's standing behind the camera and she just goes, will you stop acting? Just say the line like this. And I'm like, okay, fuck. You know, sweat balls coming out.
Because I know all your all your acting quirks, your little double blinks and the look away, and I'm like, no, it's not. That's not real. You're pretending.
Yeah, but
you got the job.
It got the job. It was a pivotal moment. It was like this. Suddenly, the career ended up just got out of the basement and started moving up again. So it was all right.
Yeah, we just need to get it from the first floor now.
Yeah, get it from the first.
We'll be right. We'll get there.
But I think we're the same. Is that it because it is such an intimate relationship. There's such a thin line, isn't there? You're like my closest partner, so I can be as honest as I want to be with you. And then there's a level of like, I do not want you to be that honest with me. I want you to just deal with this right now and we'll talk about it. Like, you know, because I would imagine I'm the same as you, Cam, where you think it's just going to be 5 minutes. Like, I know these lines. And then there's a little iPhone in front of you and your partner's there and suddenly you don't remember any of the lines anymore and suddenly you're acting a little bit too much and maybe hitting the joke of that a little too hard. And now let's bring up the fact that you stack the dishwasher in a different way that I would usually do it. And it just becomes...
I don't know about you, but I find myself saying a lot, yeah, that was perfect.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
I think we got it. I think we got it.
Yeah. You're done, honey. You're done. Oh, God, get me out.
The worst thing you can hear is like, do you want to do another one? Having your partner say, like, should we do another one? You're like, do you think we should do another one? I think that was fine. Oh, no.
Yeah. I now encourage him heavily to ask his actor friends to go rehearse with them. I'm like, honey, what about Sally? She'd be great to run this with.
And actors and comedians are famously healthy group of people mentally with no competitiveness between them.
Exactly. Really good. Really, really good.
Speaking of competitiveness, who's funnier?
Rhys is,
Our dog,
Rhys is funnier,
probably.
I think.
No, I think we're equal, but I think
Too much hesitation to believe you.
No. I was thinking of a way to. I think you're. Well, I was trying to think of a way to word this because I think we're going to be in a cycle argument about this because I don't find myself as funny as I think would be psychos if we were like, clearly I'm the professional comedian, I'm funnier. Like I don't. It often takes Kyran pointing something out to me that I've said on stage of why it's funny. Sometimes I just say things and it gets a laugh and I go, I don't understand this joke.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why they laughed at me saying it. I said it out of panic.
But it's in your bones more.
Yes,
like
that's
it's just,
maybe it.
and also you
Okay.
got 10,000 hours in a
Correct.
way that
There you go.
like you know it's just you just know the timing on stage and just how to the moving of an elbow can assist a joke and that's just in you after this many years doing that many gigs when I just didn't I stopped stand up a very long time ago and even at that time hadn't done it as much as Rhys had so so I think you're just absolutely
It's just different.
yeah.
But I don't understand how tax works, so Kyran helps with that.
But we bring different things to the shows, don't we?
Yeah. I can write jokes till the cows come home, but I cannot piece together we would not be anywhere near as successful as, I probably would have stopped comedy if Kyran and I hadn't have met because it would have stagnated because what got us working more was my hour shows and that's what Kyran and I do together. I wouldn't be able to, I can't put together a show at all by myself. But if we were to break up or something, I'd have to find another collaborator, and I'd imagine you notice a difference in the work.
It's like the pathos of a full hour. It's like how it flows and how it all pieces together.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. As a performer, I think it's good to have a set of eyes that is away from, is able to look at the whole thing. Because when you're in it, it's very difficult to have perspective.
And every other art form, right? Like the Fifth Beatle. Like there's someone else in that room, there's, every theatre, every film, every, even books have editors, like every art form has this other eye. And I don't know, stand up for some reason, I guess you're probably a pretty independent person if you're going into stand up. So it's not a natural ground for criticism. But I guess maybe for us, I guess you trusted me early, Rhys, that I wasn't trying to screw you. It was yeah. But it was all in assistance. It was all to help. It was trying to improve, trying to be better from a early point. And so we started working together pretty simply.
Rhys, you've got a book out currently, right? Is it Dish, Spiels, Scoops, Emotional Outbursts, and the Occasional Recipe? Is that correct? Did I say that right?
That's what it's called.
That's true.
That's what it's called.
Yeah. I love my editor and I love my publisher, Penguin Random House. But God, they love a subtitle, like a subheading.
Yeah.
You seem to not be allowed to release a book anymore without some wild, paragraph length,
like a blurb on the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
I wanted to just call it Dish. There's a bit on the back of the book they can read about what it is. They want to know.
How did you have time to write that and do with everything else you're doing?
This is a great
It's an interesting question because I didn't. ChatGPT took a lot of the load. No, it was a COVID project that came home to roost.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It was a end of COVID. I reckon if they had offered it to me at the beginning of COVID, it would be a different story. But it was kind of in the tail end, as people keep calling it, as if it stopped. And I said, yes, I can whack together a book in a year. And then I suddenly became, this is so not a complaint, but more of just a situation. I just became incredibly busy. And so then we put it off another another year, and then I really had to get going on it, and I lost my damn mind. Like, again, it's like it's the intricacies of and the annoying, like, comedy themes. So yeah, you just kind of like throw it out, and I'm used to kind of doing that. But it turns out with a book, you have to sit and you have to write it all. And even though it's such a silly, it's a book that I'm very proud of it, but I think part of that is how hard I worked on it, and it's how hard I worked on a very silly thing. Like, it really got to the point in the kind of putting in the last few chapters of it, and it's just a book of essays. Like, it's not my biography.
Yeah.
Sometimes they call it my autobiography, and it's like, I'm 34.
Yeah.
I'm not the...
Yeah.
I'm not exactly the Malala of Australian comedy. Like, I don't have a story to tell.
It's like being pulled up for This Is Your Life at the age of 34.
Yeah. And they're like,
no, I ain't done yet.
we've got two people for you. Mum and Dad are here, and that's all we could really... That's
And
everyone else
and
was
your
pretty
sixth
busy.
grade school teacher. Yeah.
But yeah, so...
But that means that you've got to write like 30 essays that each have, you got to have like 30 opinions on things all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Immediately after having written and done like an hour of comedy. So you've already put together 80,000 words of opinion and thought in stand-up, which is a pretty condensed form of thought. And then Rhys had to immediately turn around and write 80,000 words again in the same year. So,
And I tried my hardest not to like have crossover, because I think that's something that people in the arts do. Like, you make these little rules for yourself. You're like, well, I'm not going to have any stand-up in there. And then as that deadline gets closer and closer, you're like, maybe actually let's look back in some of those old notebooks and see if we can maybe pop in a couple of... I'm sure no one saw this show anyway. Don't worry about it.
but then we work on the shows together, not everything. So then I got to read the book like from scratch, having never read an essay once it was like printed.
Wow.
Yeah, I had this weird reaction. I don't know why. I think maybe there was potentially like part of my brain that was... This is so counterproductive, but like I wanted to like see if I could do something by myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't... It wasn't that I didn't let Kyran read anything. I just didn't show you anything.
No.
Like, it wasn't like, no. It was like, I just didn't show you anything until it was like getting edited and things, which I'm sure at certain times Kyran must have been like, what have they written in this book? And then once it even had a cover and stuff and we saw the first proofs of it, Kyran read a copy of it, which I don't recommend. A harrowing experience of having your partner lay next to you in bed reading your comedy book and occasionally like giggling at something and just being like, what did you laugh at? What were you laughing at? What was that? Which bit?
Yeah.
Also, a terrible way to read a book is just having the author constantly interrupt you, going, what did you like? What was it that you liked? What was the bit that you liked?
And then he'd just be quiet, reading a whole chapter quiet. And I'd be like, ooh, I got to do some work on that chapter.
I'll just be like, no, nothing. More tea, please.
This is all good intel for me. I've got a book coming out in October, and I haven't. We're coming up to proof copy.
Yeah.
In middle of the year, and I'll just make sure that
I'm not reading it in front of you. I think that's
because
very,
Ali
very...
wrote a book about menopause, and I read that on an airplane, and
Laugh
was
a minute, let me
constantly
tell you.
bawling my eyes out because this is my wife telling me stuff through a book that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. It's like, have you read Cam's?
No.
I'd skip the proof bit.
Yeah.
I'd wait a couple more months.
I think I'm going
That's
to
all.
wait. Yeah. I mean, we've talked a lot about it, and he's like, do you want to read it? And I said, do you want to read this part? And I said, no, I kind of want to read it when it's all together. Plus, also,
Exactly.
Yeah.
we have this challenge in our relationship is that I'm a stickler for the truth, and Cam loves exaggerating.
Why let the truth get in the way of a
and
good
so
story,
I just
you know?
have to
story,
be
yeah.
okay with all the exaggerating and the difference in the in the storytelling. It had to go to print before. Because I'll be like, it never happened. You weren't even there. There was 5, not 2. So I just have to be okay with all the way. It's like, this is your story. This is your book. You're going to tell it your way, and just let that go.
Well,
I always think it's allowed, though, if you're exaggerating. Like, I do this a lot in stand-up. I exaggerate stories, but to make me worse. Like, I think that's all right.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think
right.
if you're exaggerating to make you the winner when you weren't, I think that's not always ideal.
Yeah.
Unless it's like good for the narrative or something.
Well, we've been together for 30 odd years now. So, and I have
Odd years.
been 30 odd, very odd years.
Very
Take every
odd.
second year off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like a leap year. It's 4.
Only 15, really, to get it together.
But I've learnt because yes, I do resemble having made myself look better in stories by exaggerating that way. But now
But you're very self-deprecating as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're
You've
not-
always been that, though,
so
at the same time.
let that go, guys. What's happening? You've got the Sydney Writers Festival coming up, and
Yes.
and the Sydney Comedy Festival, Melbourne Comedy
Yes.
Festival is passed.
Yeah, and then so I'm doing Sydney Comedy. We're doing a full tour, like Sydney, Brisbane, we'll be in Perth, depending on when this has come out. I'm also doing like my friend Georgia Mooney and I, as part of Vivid Festival, are doing these kind of like collaborative shows where we're doing these late night supper club shows. Vivid, in all their wisdom, have like given us a budget to put together and do whatever we want. And it's like, all right, good luck. No, but we're doing these like, some of them are just more kind of cabaret shows, but then some of them like we're having a grown-up kids party, we're calling it, where like members of the Wiggles and people from
Great.
like a kind of late night show where children's entertainers, and we're going to have like a face painter, and there's going to be like party hats and party games and stuff.
Fairy bread,
I'm going to have
chocolate
I'm going to have a tiger painted on my face the whole show, I think.
We do something called a 2-minute shower. We're going to ask you both the same questions. Keep your questions really short. Not your
Answers
questions.
really short.
Keep your answers really short. Let's
I
try
panicked.
that.
I was like, was I meant to prepare questions? Oh no.
You didn't know?
You didn't
You
get
didn't
the
get the
memo.
memo? Okay.
What the world needs more of is
Cash.
I was going to say the same thing.
No.
you guys should
Not
get a room.
personal.
Solar panels, I'd say.
Solar panels is a good one. I mean, just like understanding, and you can take that in any way that you want.
What do you miss when you're not together?
The cash. No, I think, again, this sounds, but I guess that we've got to lean into it in this podcast, making him laugh genuinely. Like, he's a pretty captive audience, and it's a good audience, and it's a satisfying audience.
Yeah, little moments, the little tiny, just the hanging out, just the every second of every day.
We're a good hang.
Yeah, nice.
What habit does your partner have that you find adorable?
I mean, this is not as crude as it sounds, but when he's getting dressed in the morning, he does this funny little thing when he puts on underwear. There's this hilarious, like, little dance that he does with his legs that I don't think he realizes that he's doing. This kind of, and it really makes me,
cute.
and it's been 13 years of quietly making me laugh with this little underpants dance.
Oh, I love that. The underpants dance.
Every night getting into bed, Rhys will jump onto the bed across me,
This is,
like a little trampoline, like, hoi!
this sounds insane. I think it's almost a thing that I do.
Quick answers, Rhys.
Sorry,
You can't
but
respond.
but
That's
I
it.
do-
We got to move
I do
on.
it-
No time.
I do it to. I think it's so I know that my knees still work. So Kyran's laying flat in the bed, and I can jump quite high. And the idea is that I jump over him onto my side of the bed, and I've done
Yep.
it every day for the last probably 10 years.
Wow.
It's an
Yeah.
exhibition of youth.
You're the only people we've ever told, by the way.
Yeah, that's a. As you said it to that, I was like, that's maybe the most intimate thing about me that's ever been said publicly.
Secret is safe with us. I think I'm moving into the underpants dance now because my knees
Yeah.
are not as
Yeah.
flexible as they used to be. And I'm kind of having
Yeah.
to do a
Get
little kind of
everything
move to.
Get
sorted.
everything sorted.
There's so many things to sort in his underpants,
Oh,
by the
I
way.
thought it was SORDID, everything's sorted. Oh, that's true too.
What about your relationship makes you feel the most grateful?
Time.
Time. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good answer. I feel very lucky that the statistics of us finding each other is pretty wild. Like that we've like found each other.
Yeah.
It makes me feel pretty lucky, which is kind of a catch-all.
Been together for 13 years. We've got like 50 to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And there's something kind of comforting in that.
Yeah.
I know that we're doing short answers, but we know so few people that met when they were in their 20s, early 20s, and the ones that have just like understand what we mean. But it's like, you can kind of make little mistakes, and we know that we've got our kind of future ahead of us together
Yeah,
still.
yeah.
All right, final question. one word to describe each other.
God. That's not my word.
You think I'm God? Wow, that is high praise. Same answer forever.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that, I'm going to steal his one as well, but yeah, I can't, that seems pretty right to me.
I love that.
I mean, there's a word, right.
Yeah.
Not in like an alt-right way. That would be more intimate information to come out. Turns out we are wild right-wingers.
And I'd just like to sign off with Trump 2024.
Yeah.
Oh.
Imagine a Daily Mail article.
Fantastic. You guys, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with all the projects and everything you've got coming up, and it just sounds so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for chatting to us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us in your enormous bathroom.
Yeah.
Of our house.
If you could leave, if you could all go, that'd be great.
My face is sore from laughing.
You know, you are never sexier than when you are laughing.
Oh. Well,
I
that's
need
very
to
nice.
take you to more of comedy.
Clearly.
Just, you're so joyful, and I love being around you. Like Rhys said, that he loves to make Kyran laugh. I do the same. That's how I feel with you as well. And those guys, they're fantastic.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And clearly, they're so happy to be working with each other as well as being married and partnered to each other. So really, really fun.
Yeah.
Really fun.
I know we use the term, or I have used the term ham and egging it. I think we do that pretty well, taking the load and, while the other one supporting each other.
Yeah, sure.
And
sure.
they seem to have worked that out really well. And they're both thriving as a result of it.
Yeah.
That's great. It's a really good chat. Hope you enjoyed the chat too.
And go see Rhys live.
Yeah.
We're going to for sure.
Yeah, it's a team effort. Team effort, Kyran and Rhys Nicholson. Okay, we'll catch up with you on the next
Thanks for listening.
separate bathroom.
Bye.